Hello everyone, this is Matrarch, and I'm here with another review for the Achievement Hunting 101 podcast. The game I'm going to be reviewing today is Octonaut. Octonaut was developed by Joseph Calabro and published by eastasiasoft. It's a side-scrolling shoot-'em-up that you can purchase for $6.99, and it's a pretty easy completion too. Octonaut has 14 achievements worth 1,000 gamer score and 1,072 TA. There's no reason to assume that TA score is ever going to skyrocket either, because it really doesn't ask you to do that much to finish it. A copy of Octonaut was provided for review, and we just want to thank eastasiasoft for providing that. In Octonaut, you play as the Octonaut. In short, humanity is, as always, on its last legs, and they needed to summon something to help us. So we have a flying octopus. Simple enough. It's once again a side-scrolling shoot-'em-up, so that means all the action proceeds from left to right, and as you go through slaughtering the various enemies that you come across, these enemies will drop various items. These will be in the form of cakes, which replace your health, gashapon capsules, which allow you to change weapons, and then diamonds. The diamonds, as they drop, can be shot by you, and when you shoot them, they change colors. They start at green, and eventually move through yellow, red, purple, and violet. And this all matters for the achievements, which I'm going to discuss a little later on. When you start Octonaut up, you'll be presented with a couple different difficulty options, but you can really only pick one off the jump. The game's normal mode is just that, normal mode. When you're playing in normal, you'll have 1,000 hit points, and then once you deplete your 1,000 hit points, you'll have one final hit before you lose a life. Once you defeat the game the first time, you open up the panic mode, and the panic mode gives you one shield, and then you're done. So instead of getting something like 20 to 25 hits per life, you get 2. And then finally, there's a custom mode where you can mix and match and pick different levels. In addition to all of this, the game has an assist mode, and what assist mode does is it halves the enemy damage. Most enemies will do somewhere between 50 and 150 damage every time they hit you, and activating assist obviously cuts that to 25 to 75 points. It also doesn't invalidate achievements, so there's obviously good and bad with this. Octonaut, even without the assist mode on, isn't a terribly challenging game. And if you want to make it even less challenging, go ahead and pop on that assist. As a game itself, it's actually pretty fun. It's not difficult, it's really accessible, the controls are responsive and not difficult to master. It would be a really good way to introduce someone who's not into shoot-'em-ups to an easy shoot-'em-up, or possibly to even get a younger child into playing them. The graphics are clean, they're bright, they're colorful, the music is era appropriate, and what I mean by that is the game is presented in a 16-bit style. There are a couple of graphics options that allow you to add scan lines, which seems to be all the rage with these 16-bit games, but you can take or leave that as you please. As I touched on briefly, the gameplay is a lot of fun actually for what it is. This isn't reinventing the wheel. You're not going to find new gameplay or anything super exciting. But it's a really good example of its genre, especially at a basic level. The gashapon capsules that drop different weapons actually contain weapons that feel like they function differently. My personal favorite weapon was the bowling ball, which shoots in an arc, but is also more powerful than most of the other weapons. You can also pick up things like ninja stars that basically do burst fire. You can pick up a tri-shot that will shoot in front of you and diagonally. You can pick up a boomerang that actually will do damage to enemies behind you. These are varied enough to be interesting, and because the gameplay is pretty short, you don't feel like you get overwhelmed using them. The one thing to keep in mind with this particular gameplay, though, is that you can only hold on to one weapon at a time. You have whatever weapon that you're using, and then that second one, which will appear in the lower left corner. There's a second gauge in the lower left corner, a little green circle, and this is another part of the gameplay that's a little different. It's a duck mechanic of sorts. So by pressing the left trigger or the left bumper or the X button, you can actually have the Octonaut duck into the background and avoid elements in the foreground that might injure you. Generally, this is something you can avoid using, but as you get further into the game, specifically the final stretch of Stage 3, this really becomes useful to surviving the stages. As I said before, the game is easy enough where this isn't a huge concern, especially if you have assist on. But if you want to play the game in a way that actually takes advantage of all of its mechanics, this is certainly something you can do, and it's honestly pretty fun. The whole game is only 8 levels long, and to get all the achievements, you only need to get through 6 of them. So, let's just go ahead and dive into that achievement list. As mentioned at the top, 14 achievements, 1000 gamer score. Nothing particularly trying. The game has several achievements for getting enemy kills. These come at 50, 500, and 1000. The 50 kills achievement is probably the first one you'll get, and you'll get that within minutes of starting the game. 1000 enemy kills may sound like a lot, but I got that within the 75 minutes I played the game, and it wasn't even the last achievement I got. It's a fair amount that won't cause you to play the game beyond anything else that you would have to do. Many of the game's achievements are attached to the gems that enemies drop. As I noted before, when you shoot a gem once it's dropped, it will change color. So you get one achievement for earning 12 of each of the colors of gems. So one for 12 red, one for 12 yellow, and so on. And then there's also an achievement for collecting 250 gems. Once again, this sounds like a lot. It really isn't. The 250 gems achievement wound up being the last one that I got, but it didn't take much gameplay beyond what was required for the in-game achievements. Though there aren't any achievements flagged as story on TA just yet, there are 3 achievements that will eventually get that designation, and these are the ones for defeating the enemies at the end of levels 2, 4, and 6. The final 2 achievements have to do with things that you pick up from when you kill the various enemies that you come across. These would be the cakes that heal you need to pick up 20 of those, and the gashapon capsules, which give you your different weaponry. For those, you need to collect 30. As I said at the top, this whole achievement list will generally take you anywhere between an hour or 2. When I sat down with the game, I did so with no prep. I looked at the list very briefly when I got started to get a sense of what was ahead of me, and then I just jumped right in. And from first achievement to last achievement, my total time played was 75 minutes. And all in all, it was a pretty enjoyable 75 minutes. At $7, Octonaut is still a little bit highly priced because the gameplay really doesn't extend that far beyond what you need for that full 1K. But if it comes down a little bit to that Ratalaika sweet spot of $5, you could do a lot worse than Octonaut. And to repeat, it's actually really accessible if you also have a young gamer or a very inexperienced shoot-'em-up gamer in your household. Putting all this together, I would rate Octonaut at 3.5 out of 5 gashapon capsules. There are definitely better games out there in this genre. Shoot-'em-ups are pretty well represented, and the people who love shoot-'em-ups generally love them to have a high level of difficulty too. But if you're like me and you like your shoot-'em-ups, but you've never been good enough to get all that far in the really great ones, this is a fantastic introduction and also a nice quick hit of gamer score. Once again, thank you so much to eastasiasoft for providing a copy of Octonaut for us for review, and I hope that those of you listening have fun getting that gamer score.